too much. Okay, the first one is gender and mediatic representation. I started to study the representation in newspapers, media, some years ago, thanks to a European foundation found on the called Daphne. When I started to study domestic violence, and we will have a talk on domestic violence. When we talk about gender and mediatic representation, we can't think about where we are in our culture, and we can't decontextualize the culture and the sexism. We will talk about sexism, and about what and where we are born. We usually are born in a society that can be considered heteronormativity society. Heteronormativity society, it means that is a society that sees the gender, male and female, like a couple in all the cases. When we talk about gender, we talk about a social construction of biological sex and allow girls and boys to recognize others thanks to the symbol, images, non-verbal language, and way to express themselves. All these things, we learn that when we are very young, when we start to learn that when we are 3, 4 years old, and we go to school, and our teachers and our parents start to say, okay, you are a boy, you have to play with a robot, or you are a girl, you have to play with the dolls. And this part stay in our mind for many, many, many years. And yesterday, I listened to a presentation about stereotypes and stigmatization, and it's something that we will touch also in my presentation. What include gender role? Well, psychological aspect, and then sexual orientation, cultural specificity. Others, it means works, for example. It means where you live, for example. Politics, economics variables. And we know that the gender studies in the last 10 years, 20 years, have many, many researchers. We have many Ph.D. in gender studies. We have many master degree in gender studies in many countries. But in this moment, in my reality in Italy, it's still quite a big problem. But not only in Italy. Because we will see that, as Lippmann said in 1922, there's many things about stereotypes. And this part is revealed the reason why the agents of social influence, family, group, peers, and media. All this part can influence together, and we can just try to compare what we want to discuss and how we learn that. Cultural and legislative framework, we can't avoid to think, as I said before, where we are. And also the legislation. If we believe that the legislation, the law, and the framework, and the culture, and the religion is something really important for the people, we have to think that all these parts is inclusive for the gender role. So, the history led us to learn that something changed in the years. But if we arrive in Italy, the women had the right to vote only in 1946. And in some country, they still have some problem about the vote. And what all the group, or the women that gets called feminism, okay, is a group of women that want only to say, we have some rights. We would like to have some rights as the other man has. When a woman thinks that, in the same time is thinking about a dichotomy, male and female. We are born with this dichotomy in our mind. And we are born with the dichotomy that usually a male is, well, higher, one step higher than the women. Because if we start to think in our country, all what happens in the last 40 years is try to increase the number of the women in the politics. So in Italy we have, not only in Italy, obviously, the pink rule, the women that can assess, they can come inside the politics. And then the process. The process about the gender is something that is changed, because I know that probably you know that, but now the gender is not only male and female. In some countries yet, we have male, female, and others. So it's the other genders that is not categorized as male, female, as a dichotomy on-off. And say that the fight to try to say that the women are at the same level of the men are still ongoing. And this fight, we try to analyze this fight looking at sports, at the media, at the representation, and how the media represents the women. And if you are, well, we are aware that we will see some images of women, beautiful women probably, but very expressive women, I would say. Italy, in other case, it still has some problem about the opportunity to give the role to a woman that's the same role as a man. In fact, the girls born in Italy does not have the same probability of their brothers to express the power of thought and action. And also the salary is still not the same. And we will see in a range of where we are that Italy is very, very low as a categorization for gender equality. Gender gap report. This is what I was talking about. Well, Italy in 2008 was the 67th place, in 2009, 72, 2010 and 11, 74, and 80th place in 2012. So I don't know if in the room there is some Italian. Yes. So I know that you know what is happening in Italy in this moment, and it's something that we can regret. Because if we continue to go down, everybody, last year was here to talk about another topics, and we were discussing about the politics aspect of the Italian roles, and about our past president of Consiglio, Silvio Berlusconi. We talked about 15 minutes with the presentation about that, and we know that all the world knows Silvio Berlusconi. I don't mind about politics, gender, I don't mind everything, right, left, I don't mind. But the image that he transmitted to the world was quite strange, probably. And this is a sort of spot, Pubblicità Progresso. It's a campaign of 2013. The campaign was very in all the country, and was really interesting because we represent normal women, okay, with a bubble, and into the bubble there is a sentences. This is absolutely not finished. In this case, when I come back home, I like to. Everybody can finish the sentence as they want. I can finish. I like to eat with my husband, or I like to, I don't know, ironing, or I like to. Okay, this is what we would like. All the imaging, all the interpretation, the representation that we put in this bubble is what we think. It's something that we come from our deep or our mind. It's something that we probably is a conjunction to the stereotypes and something that could be talk about stigma. But some probably young people said, what I'm asking to the institution is a flatiron. Or, I like that my husband would eat me harder. Or again, after studying, I like to be a Kipti. Obviously, these sentences are sentences done from vandalism, from people that we can define as very stupid, probably. But it's something that is around us. And we can't avoid to look at it and to ask ourselves where we are going if the young people, probably 16, 18, or 14 years old, finish the sentence in that way. But we are perfectly conscious that these people born in a society, in a culture that saw women here and the men there. And again, we are to introduce the concept of dehumanization. Dehumanization of the role. dehumanize is to deny the humanity of the other, individual or group, introducing an asymmetry between those who enjoy quality of the prototypical human and we consider ineffective or lacking. The dehumanization is multifaced, multiple and flexible, and it can be seen into an explicit way, include openly denied the humanity of other individuals, or in subtle way. That can include the processes that we can find in daily action. And strictly connect to that, we have to run to the sexism. The sexism that we can divide into hostile and to benevolent. Okay? The first one is the more clear. I think that everybody here have an idea, have an image in their mind about sexism, hostile sexism. But both the types of sexism are discrimination and are the two faces of the same coin. Please, start to think, when I say, now you have to try to think about a family. Try to think about two parents in your mind. And start to think about the parents that is represented into the sport, into newspapers, and into what the family is. I bring some images from our society, from Italy, and usually the images is this one. We call this family of Mulino Bianco. Everybody probably, you know the biscuits, Mulino Bianco from Barilla. This is very good indeed. But the family that is represented in this spot is always blonde girl, smiling for all times, beautiful man, too young, that's beautiful, fantastic. But if you're married or if you live with somebody near you, man or female, I don't mind, and you know, probably in this moment they are just awake, just outside in the garden, and they are together and they are playing. I don't know how many hours of your day you spend in the garden playing with your children in that way. But the most interesting thing is that this representation is a typical Italian family. My family is not like that one, for sure. My parents wasn't like that one. In fact, we know that in 2008, about this big number of births, 780 arise from the foreign parents. By mother, this number, over 40, under 17. But the typical family is mother and extended mother are young, blonde, serene, beautiful. The mothers who cook are brunette, skinny, smiling, relaxed. They have long hair, about 25 years old. It seems that all they well the same house and in the same kitchen with the same lights out because it's always sunny. I don't know if you remember a spot, television spot with rain. Yes, probably one or two. But if there is the rain, it's the spot for the umbrella. But after the rain, there's always the sun. And with glasses, obviously. Over 30, tired, working, not on time. And can bring a suit. We don't see that pleat. In T-shirt, he noticed, fat, workers, bird, over 45 or younger than the mothers. Oh, this is the stereotypes of the family. But this is include also the stereotypization of the women. Because in the research done in 2008 and 2011, we know that the women that are into the magazine, into the sport, in the newspapers, are usually women that are alone, that are with some product together, and is, for example, some parfum, for example, or some food. And the images are erotic, in the 25%, and are model, fantastic women. There is only, in Italy, we saw only one newspaper spot, in a magazine also, that was about the dove. for the soap, the company for the soap, that used a beautiful campaign, was with Asian women, and was fantastic. We saw that, I think, for 1 month, not more. And motion-led women, all these women are perfect. And no one, except from the chirurgical plastic, are all the same, is beautiful, and so warm, so sweetie. But here, some spot that we saw in Italy. Well, fidati, te la do gratis. It means, trust me, I give it to you for free. Well, in Italian, it sounds very vulgar, but it's awful, it's terrible. But if we will see the women, I would just say the smile on the faces of the women is erotic or something more. And then, in this one, the first time that I saw this spot, I saw that was something about lingerie. Instead, is office furniture. Wow, fantastic. And this one, do the Cuban. I think I perceive this image very aggressive, very awful for myself. And Christmas, yes, it's a spot for Christmas. No, we can also just rent it, rental cars and vans. And then, Vesuvio and Etna, the volcans that we have in Italy, Vesuvio and Etna never been so close. And, wow, lingerie. No, human component is important to us. If you want to work with it, you have to rent her. And again, we have the Italian most famous stern. Well, it doesn't sound very well in English, but in Italian, stern is the same word for sen, breast, okay? And if we start to smile, because I smile too, okay? Everybody here just after their hand, just to smile a little bit. It's normal, because we are born in a sexist society, okay? No, it's not normal at all. Because our smile in this case is discrimination. Go to confirm once again what the publicity, what the sport, what the campaign want to demonstrate. And we are giving it to everybody. The ADSL, where this is not. We are giving it what? It's implicity. So is what is explicitity and what is implicity? Mount me for free. Hey, we are talking about photovoltaic system. What do you think about? And this one. In the last year, we start to see a new pictures. The man. That we are many in this room, this moment. I talk for myself. If you can see here, there's a tortue. You know the tortue, that is the line in this way, it's at the abdomen, okay, the muscle. Here's a tortue in that way. All the male here have the tortue in that way. I have the tortue turned it on the other side, because I have it to be bigger. But the male that you see in the campaign are always beautiful. Okay, great. What we can say is we collect all the data. We just check about 175 campaign, television campaign and newspapers campaign. And the nations who have expressed the highest score for the hostile sexism usually also express highest benevolent sexism. Because if you explain one, you can't not explain the other one. And the most amazing thing is that the women try to avoid the not benevolent, the hostile sexism, using the power. But in this moment, the power is still of the men. That they create sexism. But if we, it's just a circle. We go in circle again and again. And we think that we have to try to cut it. Because the scientific literature that explores gender stereotypes has largely demonstrated the harmful effects derived from a sexist advertising, benevolent or hostile as they are, among other aspects, contribute by maintaining the inequality between men and women. So probably we have to start to change something like that. And if we work in the mental health or we work in the well-being and we talk with people, we perfectly know that when we, in the first view, when we come in contact with someone, the first thing that we think is how she or he likes. And then we go on. We go straight to what we have to do. And Italy has really an urgent moment and need to gain a greater understanding of the influence that the prejudice is going on. Because in the next two presentations, we will see the massive violence and homophobia. And we will have also I hope, time to discuss about that. Because the prejudice in this moment are increasing in our society day by day. So, thank you very much for your listening.